Africa's Hebrew Connection, Unveiling an Ancient Mystery. Did Judaism originate in Africa and find its way to the Middle East from the established trade routes? Let's explore this narrative. While the mainstream view is that Judaism developed in the Middle East, we should consider an alternative hypothesis and evaluation based on the following factors: genetic evidence, Judaic customs, and cultural practices. The Lemba observes several customs that are strikingly similar to Jewish practices, such as dietary laws resembling kashrut, ritual slaughter of animals, and endogamy, marrying within the group. They also have oral traditions that claim Jewish ancestry. Oral history. The Lemba's oral history includes stories of their ancestors migrating from a place called Sena, which some scholars have identified with a location in Yemen or possibly elsewhere in the Middle East. This migration is said to have occurred several centuries ago. E-chromosome markers. Genetic studies have found that a significant proportion of Lemba men carry the Y chromosome haplogroup known as the Cohen modal haplotype, CMH, which is associated with Jewish priestly lineage, Kohanim. This has been interpreted as evidence of a historical connection to Jewish populations. Middle Eastern ancestry. The genetic evidence suggests that the Lemba have ancestral links to the Middle East, supporting their oral traditions of migration from that region. The Cohen model haplotype, CMH, is a specific set of markers on the Y chromosome that is associated with Jewish priestly lineage, particularly among individuals who identify as Kohanim, descendants of the ancient Jewish priestly class. The CMH is found in higher frequencies among Jewish populations, especially among those who claim descent from the Kohanim. Percentage of men in Israel carrying the CMH. Among Ashkenazi Jewish Kohanim, approximately 45-60% carry the CMH. Among Sephardic and Mizrahi Jewish Kohanim, the frequency is slightly lower but still significant, ranging from 35 to 50%. In the broader Jewish population, non-Kohanim, the frequency of the CMH drops significantly, as it is specifically associated with the priestly lineage. Among non-Kohanim Jews, the CMH is found in less than 5 to 10% of men. Comparison with the Lemba. Among the Lemba, studies have shown that a significant proportion of men carry the CMH. In some Lemba subgroups, the frequency of the CMH is as high as 50%, which is comparable to the frequency found among Jewish Kohanim. This high frequency is one of the key pieces of evidence supporting the Lemba's claim of a historical connection to Jewish populations. Significance of the CMH. The CMH is considered a genetic signature of the ancient Israelite priesthood. Its presence among the Lemba, combined with their cultural and religious practices, strongly suggests a historical link to Jewish communities. The CMH is not exclusive to Jews, but its high frequency among Jewish Kohanim and the Lemba is a strong indicator of shared ancestry. The CMH is found in a significant percentage of Jewish Kohanim in Israel, ranging from 45 to 60% among Ashkenazi Kohanim, and 35 to 50% among Sephardic and Mizrahi Kohanim. Among the broader Jewish population, the frequency is much lower. The high frequency of the CMH among the Lemba, up to 50% in some subgroups, is a key piece of evidence supporting their historical connection to Jewish populations. Africa, a land of vast diversity and timeless secrets, holds within its heart a connection that bridges continents, cultures, and histories. Thousands of years ago, stories began weaving the intricate tapestry of humanity, traveling across golden deserts, lush plains, and mighty rivers. Among the tales whispered through time lies one both profound and mysterious: Africa's Hebrew connection. Today we embark on a journey to uncover traces of an ancient bond between Africa and the Hebrew people, a connection enriched by oral legends, sacred artifacts, and the revelations of modern science. Together we shall delve into the mystical, where faith, culture, and identity intertwine in fascinating ways. Long before the borders of nations were drawn, the Hebrew diaspora began to spread. Fleeing strife or seeking new opportunities, Jewish communities ventured across lands unknown. Some braved the Mediterranean, some traversed the Arabian deserts, while others followed trade routes deep into the African continent. The possibilities are as endless as time itself. Could the descendants of ancient Israelites have settled in Africa, embedding their customs into the fabric of the continent? The answer dances like a shadow in the firelight, calling for scholars, scientists, and storytellers to explore further. Africa, with its long history as a crossroads of civilizations, offers the perfect cradle for this cultural encounter. Its bustling trading centers brought not only goods, but ideas and traditions. How did the stories of ancient Hebrews travel seamlessly into the rich folds of African culture? This question fuels our exploration as the echoes of migration still resonate in artifacts and genetics. In southern Africa, among the humble hills and verdant plains, lives a community bearing a story etched in sacred memory. The Lemba people, a tribe unlike any other, hold fast to their traditions with hearts full of pride. Their oral histories, passed down through generations, tell of an ancient migration from the Holy Land, a story of Hebrews who found a new home in the heart of Africa. But stories alone do not define the Lemba. Their practices sing evidence of a heritage that defies simple explanation. They adhere to kosher-like dietary laws and circumcision rituals reminiscent of the Abrahamic covenant. The keeping of Sabbath-like customs further deepens the reverence connecting them to shared Jewish traditions. Their songs, dances, and prayers form an intricate mosaic, carrying echoes of Jewish rites across time and space. Indian Ocean trade routes. The Indian Ocean trade routes were highly active from around the first millennium CE onwards. These routes facilitated the movement of people, goods, and ideas between the Middle East, South Asia, and East Africa. Jewish traders and other groups from the Middle East were known to travel these routes. Jewish diaspora. The Jewish diaspora included communities spread across the Middle East, North Africa, and beyond. Historical records and archaeological findings indicate that Jewish communities existed in places like Yemen, which is often cited in Lemba oral traditions as their place of origin. Cultural practices. The Lemba have maintained several Judaic-like practices such as dietary laws, ritual slaughter, and endogamy. These practices have been preserved over generations and are consistent with Jewish traditions. Oral traditions. The Lemba's oral history includes detailed accounts of their migration from a place called Sina, which some scholars associate with a location in Yemen. These stories have been passed down through generations and provide a cultural narrative that aligns with genetic and historical findings. Scholarly consensus. Academic research. The combination of genetic, historical, and anthropological evidence has led many scholars to conclude that the Lemba's ancestors likely migrated to southern Africa during the medieval period. This conclusion is based on a multidisciplinary approach that cross-references different types of evidence. And then there is the Ngoma Lungundu, revered as the drum that thunders. This sacred object, guarded for centuries by the Lemba, is believed to be a manifestation of the Ark of the Covenant. The Ngoma's tale is one of divine protection, holy reverence, and the mystical heritage of a people connected both to earth and heaven. As the Lemba's oral narratives and cultural practices stoked curiosity around the globe, science joined in to illuminate the unknown. Modern genetic studies uncovered an astonishing revelation. A significant number of Lemba men carried the Cohen modal haplotype, CMH, a genetic marker associated with Jewish priestly heritage. This discovery, like starlight breaking through the night, offered tangible proof to their age-old claims. The CMH, found in the descendants of the Jewish priestly caste, seems to bridge the distance between African plains and Jewish synagogues. This genetic thread weaves a stunning narrative of shared ancestry, stretching from Jerusalem's ancient temples to the vibrant communities of Africa. Yet science can only tell part of the story. How this genetic heritage became intertwined with the Lemba remains a mystery, leaving room for awe and wonder. It is a testament to humanity's interconnectedness, reminding us that borders and oceans cannot divide the bonds of ancestry. Mysticism thrives in the story of the Ngoma Lungundu, the Lemba's sacred drum. Said to have been created from the ruins of the original Ark of the Covenant, this artifact is more than wood and leather. It is a symbol of survival and divine guidance, believed to protect the Lemba people in times of distress. Legends tell of the Ngoma unleashing thunder upon enemies, a power likened to the voice of God. Carried for generations, the Ngoma holds central importance in the Lemba's spiritual life. For them, it is not merely history. It is living proof of their bond with the divine. In a world that often seeks hard evidence, the Ngoma Lungundu is a beacon of faith. Its power lies not only in physical form, but in the spirit of a people who believe in its sacredness. Mystical and deeply rooted in tradition, it offers a glimpse into the divine mysteries that humanity has sought to unravel since the dawn of time. The story of the Lemba reminds us that Africa is a vast quilt of interwoven histories. Throughout the continent, cultures have mingled and merged, creating something uniquely vibrant. The Hebrew connection adds another shimmering thread to this diverse tapestry, revealing how identities can overlap and evolve. Trade routes across the Red Sea carried more than salt and spices. They transported ideas, beliefs, and rituals. From the majestic Ethiopian highlands to the Zimbabwean plateaus, traditions reflective of shared narratives emerged. The blending of Jewish symbolism within African art, rituals, and folklore speaks of profound integration. Even more fascinating are practices and symbols observed within other communities that bear parallels to Hebrew traditions. While many remain speculative, they invite us to consider the depth of Africa's role in globalization long before modern economies coined the term. Spirituality is the cornerstone of the Lemba's identity. Their faith, shaped by both hardship and hope, has endured in the face of colonization and cultural marginalization. To this day, many Lemba proudly identify with their Hebrew roots, even if the wider world sometimes hesitates to recognize them. Their resilience becomes an inspirational reminder. In their steadfast commitment to preserving tradition, they echo a universal truth. The longing for connection and the pursuit of belonging are eternal human aspirations. Whether through song, prayer, or ceremony, the Lemba embody their legacy with dignity and grace. Across Africa, echoes of ancient Hebrew influences whisper through various communities. Ethiopia, with its Beta Israel community, reveals another facet of this shared story. The Ark of the Covenant, sacred throughout Jewish tradition, purportedly rests in the Church of St. Mary in Axum, a tale that layers myth and belief atop one another. The Yoruba of Nigeria and the Igbo communities have also drawn comparisons in myths, practices, and oral traditions said to trace back to the Hebrews. These stories, much like the Lembas, defy simple clarifications, but ignite curiosity and wonder. These parallels suggest something greater than isolated tales. They open the mind to the dynamic exchange of ideas that has defined human history. Proof that cultural lines are fluid, and shared histories can enrich humanity's collective spiritual heritage. Despite its beauty, Africa's Hebrew connection is not without challenges. Skeptics raise questions about the Lemba's genetic studies, emphasizing that cultural identity cannot rely on markers alone. Some Jewish communities are cautious about formally recognizing the Lemba as part of the broader Jewish nation, an issue that continues to stir debate. But beyond skepticism lies an opportunity. These complexities underscore the need for further dialogue, study, and respect as we explore what it truly means to belong. The story of the Lemba could become a bridge, fostering unity between communities separated by distance and time. As we gaze upon the threads of history, we see not division, but connection. Historical context. Trade and migration. The Indian Ocean trade routes, which were active for many centuries, facilitated the movement of people, goods, and ideas between the Middle East, South Asia, and East Africa. It is plausible that Jewish traders or other groups from the Middle East traveled along these routes and settled in southern Africa, bringing their customs and genetic heritage with them. Integration and cultural preservation. Over time, these Middle Eastern migrants integrated with local African populations, but maintained certain cultural practices and social structures that preserved their unique identity. This integration would have included intermarriage, which is reflected in the genetic makeup of the Lemba today. Conclusion. The Judaic customs and genetic makeup of the Lemba people can be accounted for by a combination of historical migration, cultural preservation, and genetic inheritance. The presence of Middle Eastern genetic markers, particularly those associated with Jewish populations, supports the idea that the Lemba have ancestors who migrated from the Middle East. This migration likely occurred through established trade routes, and the descendants of these migrants preserved their cultural practices while integrating with local populations. Thus, the Lemba's unique identity is a result of both cultural and genetic factors, rather than being solely the product of trade routes. While it is true that historical reconstructions always involve some degree of interpretation, the timeline of the Lemba's migration to southern Africa from around the first millennium CE onwards is supported by a robust body of evidence. This includes genetic data linking them to Middle Eastern populations, historical records of trade and migration routes, and anthropological studies of their cultural practices and oral traditions. Therefore, it is not mere speculation but a well-supported hypothesis based on converging lines of evidence. Africa's Hebrew connection is more than an ancient memory. It is a living, breathing testament to the bonds that link us all. Through migration, ritual, and resilience, the Lemba and other associated communities invite us to reimagine history, not as finite chapters, but as an ongoing narrative. Perhaps the most profound lesson lies in the mystical nature of the journey itself. Every tradition tells us that discovery comes wrapped in mystery, and every newfound answer births deeper questions. The story of Africa's Hebrew connection is no exception. So let us continue to search the sacred, to uncover these links with an open heart and curious mind. For in understanding the past, we illuminate the puzzle of who we are. Like the Lembas and Goma Lungundu, may our own pursuit of heritage thunder with wonder and unity, guiding us toward a shared and luminous future.